And welcome to week 7 of our BCBA exam prep series. I'm Katherine Kellogg, and today we're going to be going over motivating operations as well as maintenance and rule-governed behavior. Today, I'm also going to add some test prep strategies in regards to these terms. So when you hear these topics, what are some things you should think of or be aware of when you're dissecting questions? First up, motivating operations. Motivating operations are essential to understanding behavior. We have in the antecedent category, we have our stimuli and our motivating operations that influence behavior and why we do what we do. The function of behavior is also associated with that because it has to do with what the motivation is and why we're doing what we're doing. The important terms related to MOs or motivating operations are value altering effect and behavior altering effect. So based on our motivation, it influences the value of a reinforcer, which then influences our behavior. Either something is desirable and we are deprived of something, which is establishing operation, or we are satiated on something, we've had too much of it, and that is the abolishing operation. The establishing operation, this increases the value of something and increases the likelihood of us engaging in the behavior. Whereas the abolishing operation decreases the reinforcer effectiveness, which therefore has an abative effect on the behavior, and the behavior is less likely to happen. For example, for establishing operation, a very common example is food deprivation. If we haven't eaten in a while, the value of food increases versus if we're really full and we're satiated on food, if we're presented with donuts, that has an abative effect. We're not going to eat it. Exam strategies for motivating operation. A couple things. When we get into verbal operants, we will talk about manding and how motivation has to be associated with manding. We want to watch for different types of changes of internal states like hunger, thirst, fatigue. Those type of states are going to increase the value of getting those needs met. Like thirsty, we're going to want water. Those are motivating operations, and in those cases, establishing operation. We also want to look at time of day scenarios based on if it's morning, breakfast time, or if it's night, being tired. Common distractors in the questions might be associated with SDs. So the difference between a motivating operation and an SD. The difference is discriminative stimuli, or SD, signals the availability of reinforcement. There's a signal, there's a cue, there's a stimuli in the environment saying this is available to you. We see the donuts, we're hungry, those are available. We're thirsty, we see the water. That is signaling reinforcement is available to us. We're exhausted. Now we see our bed, we see that it's 10 p.m., it's available to us. Those are all SDs. There's still MOs involved in that. It's just separate. The motivation is being sleepy. The SD is the bed. The motivation is being hungry. The SD is seeing the donuts. So remember, we can be motivated for something, but not have access to it. We can want something like a brand new car after we see a commercial, but we don't have access to that. There's no signal for reinforcement. That's the common difference. With rule-governed behavior, as it sounds, it's rules that we're being told to do or not to do, or we're being told the consequences without ever having experienced it. So this is very common in schools or workplace settings with policies and procedures. We don't break all the rules to figure it out. Sometimes people do, but rule-governed behavior states that our behavior is influenced just by these rules versus contingency-shaped. We're experiencing the contingency and then we are shaping our behavior that way. The exam focus will often be identifying which type controls the behavior. So is it a rule or is it an experience? Often for contingency-shaped behavior and test prep questions, you can think of maybe trial and error experiences, or learning is sometimes slower with contingency-shaped behavior, but it can be more flexible. With rule govern, it can actually lead to quick behavior change because you're telling someone what to do or telling someone the consequences, but it might be more persistent and people still might test it out or not follow the safety procedures and then experience the consequences. So it's a little bit more risky. So look for trial and error learning processes for contingency-shaped behavior and look for the presence of some type of instruction with rule govern, policies, procedures, guidelines, those are going to be rule governed. Let's do a practice question. Sarah is a behavior analyst working with a 6-year-old client, Marcus, who engages in frequent tantrums during academic tasks. Sarah notices that Marcus's tantrums are more intense and frequent in the morning before snack time compared to immediately after snack time, even when the same academic tasks are presented. The tasks themselves remain constant across both time periods. In this scenario, Marcus's hunger before snack time most likely functions as what? So sometimes before dissecting the answers, think about what comes to mind first, because you might think of the answer and then that'll give you context clues before reading the answer choices. So you're probably thinking, okay, hunger, MO, probably EO. And if you're thinking those things because of hunger, you're correct. So the answer here is B, an establishing operation that increases the value of escape from academic tasks, but also to get access to food. Next, a behavior analyst is comparing two employees who both learned to operate a complex piece of machinery. Employee A received detailed written instructions and verbal training before, while employee B learned through trial and error with minimal initial instruction. Both employees now operate the machinery competently. However, when a minor modification is made to the machine's interface, employee A continues to follow the original procedure despite decreased efficiency, while employee B quickly adapts to the change. The behavior of employee A is most likely an example of, you can pause if you want to read. Looking at employee A, this is an example of rule-governed behavior, and it's also less sensitive to immediate contingency changes. When we're looking at maintaining a skill and maintenance, it's important that we plan for maintenance along the way that we're teaching a new skill, and we want to develop an attainable mastery criteria so that this can be sustained. Generalization is important with maintaining a skill across settings, people, items. If we are incorporating these in a variety of ways along the way, maintaining a skill can be a lot easier. Now, sometimes when we're evaluating a learner's repertoire and what they're capable of understanding, it can be hard to look at skill maintenance. And sometimes we want to make sure we're practicing the skill and not working on too many things at one time. And that's very important as well. A behavior analyst implemented a token system to increase homework completion for a 10-year-old student. During treatment, the student completed homework 85% of the time when tokens were provided on an FR1 schedule. The behavior analyst then gradually thinned the schedule to VR3, then VR5, and finally VR10 over several weeks while maintaining high levels of homework completion. 3 months after completely removing the token system, the student continues to complete the homework 80% of the time. This scenario best demonstrates successful what? So given the context clues of maintenance, yes, response maintenance through appropriate schedule, thinning. Hopefully this was a helpful review of response maintenance, of motivating operations, rule-governed behavior, and contingency-shaped behavior. We will wrap up week 7 with these topics. Please like and subscribe to stay tuned for weekly updates of our videos. And then comment below. Do you have an example or something you're thinking of that you're wondering, is this an SD or an MO? Or do you have a good example to share of one of the topics that we discussed today? Thanks for watching. See you next time.